This hour of the Alan Autry Show is sponsored by Sinlong, the most realistic artificial grass in the Central Valley.
From NFL quarterback to Hollywood to the mayor's office and now behind the mic at KXEX. This is the Alan Autry Show. No retreat.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
What the hell's going on out here? Everybody grabbing out there. Nobody. That the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
So, 5 seconds left in the game. Do you believe in miracles? Yes! Unbelievable. Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty!
You're listening to the Alan Autry Show on the best talk in town. Talk Radio 1550 KXEX.
And welcome to Alan Autry No Retreat. This is old Alan Autry, and as always, I am honored and humbled to spend this time with you. Precious thing, that thing called time, isn't it? Dadgum. I always say, I used to say I was pushing 70, now I'm dragging it. 71 years old, how did that happen? But I still feel good. You know, I feel just blessed to be able to come in here and do this show every day. Got a little bit of interest on doing a few more TV projects, to have a couple in development. Some good, exciting news that happened over the weekend. Met with some potential investors, so we're going to be doing another film. We got 2 out now called Forgiven, which old Western that we did with mostly local talent. And, man, that thing is just blowing up on YouTube, a couple of million views. But we also, my distributor dubbed Forgiven in Spanish, and it's called El Perdón now. And that movie, I don't know, I've been trying to figure it out. Small little film, like I said, a little Western, about redemption, restoration, and some decent little action in it. But again, no big names. My wife, I think, does the best part of acting of the whole film. She plays my love interest in the movie. But that thing got over 1 million views in 2 weeks, and dubbed in Spanish. And now it's up to 1.4 million views in less than 2 months. And so check it out. You can get it on YouTube. You can go to Tubi. That's a free streaming service. It's also on Up, the Faith and Family network that some of you may have. And also our film called Victory by Submission, closing on 300 views there. And I know in the whole scheme of things, I mean, Taylor Swift numbers by stretch of imagination. I get that. But it's a lot of people, I think, I think you're blessed if you watch it. I'm not saying it's going to make you forget Gone with the Wind. But it's a good little movies that have a good message to it, good godly messages, and hopefully entertaining as it delivers that message. You know, I don't like those movies. I appreciate what they're trying to do, some of the Christian films. I don't know about you, but I like to go to church and get preaching, have a good preacher preach. But I don't like my movies when they try to preach to me. You know what I mean? You get somebody, whether it's on the right or the left, they either have a political point, a religious point, and they just hit you over the head with it over. And it's like, okay, I got it. Please show me something about the plot. Move the plot forward. And by the way, get some decent actors on this thing. I'm giving him my time. I pop some popcorn, trying to leave all my troubles behind this old crazy world. And last thing I want to do is get preached at. And these 2 movies, even though they carry, I think, a good message, like I said, of faith and restoration, it's wrapped in, I think, a pretty good little story. And it's 2 really good, feel-good films. Not just because I made it. You can, so I go watch them. Forgiven. Just put in your computer, search bar, Forgiven, the movie, it'll pop up. And Victory by Submission movie, and it will pop up. And they're both 2 good holiday movies, okay? And then I told you I'd give you an update on the Tulsa King. I did an episode 8 where I had a good scene there with Sylvester Stallone. One of the reasons, well, he is probably the compelling reason why I got in the movie business. When I saw Rocky, I was so moved by that film, and I was playing pro football at the time, and I didn't think I could find anything in this life that would get my innards stirred like playing professional football. I just didn't think it was possible. I was going to live that dream, and there was nothing going to be able to top that. But I saw that movie, and I was so moved by Rocky that I said to myself coming out of that movie, man, someday I would really like to be part of what made that happen. And the more I heard Stallone's story, the more I respected him, the more it inspired me. So when I got cut by the Green Bay Packers, I was out of the NFL, and I found out that the NFL stood for not for long for me. Those NFL, I was a quarterback, and those NFL defenses made an actor out of me in a hurry. So at 25 years old, left the business, got in the movie business, started writing my own scripts like Sly, because, they didn't really take to him as an actor. And he's got some great motivational videos, by the way. They're just fantastic, telling his story about, and he has one that it's, we're not quitters. We're not quitters. Anybody listening out there or watching right now, I'm just going to take a wild guess. You don't like to quit something. You don't like to throw in the towel in something that you feel, man, I should keep going. And when you quit on your team, you quit on your work, you quit on your relationship, you quit on stuff. It doesn't feel. But he has a motivational video on the positive aspect of quitting, but it's not what you think. So go ahead and Google that. And for anyone out there, it's just a great, great video. But anyway, back to Tulsa King. Here I was doing the scene with my idol when I told him he was my inspiration for getting in the movie business. Well, right off the bat, I knew I was about the 1,000,000th person that had told him that. But the man acted like it was the first time. Got kind of wide-eyed. He settled down and looked at me. He goes, really? And well, really? Oh, man, thank you. And we had a wonderful conversation in between takes there. And after it was over, the scene worked, and I'm leaving to go back to the hotel and get my stuff, get on the plane. We shot it in Oklahoma City and to come back here to California. He was walking out to his trailer, so I said, hey, Sly. And he wants you to call him Sly, by the way. Walked over to him and said, just want to thank you, for allowing me to get this part here. It was a lot of fun with you. I just want to say thank you in case we don't cross paths again. And he said, well, we got the next season, And I said, well, I don't know if I'm guaranteed that. And so anyway, handshake, hug. Excuse me, that was it. And then we had the show was picked up. But we had the writers and the actors strike. So I haven't heard anything from them. Stallone hasn't even made up his mind whether he's going to do the part, do the show. I think he ultimately will. But he was telling me, I said, how's it going? It's going great, But he said the heat there in Oklahoma City, man, 77 years old, in good shape. But, man, if any of y'all have ever lived in that humidity in the South, I shot 7 seasons in Georgia of the heat of the night, and I was a relatively young man. Between the ages of 34 and 42, I was there. You can still handle that stuff. So I doubt that if it comes back, if he makes the decision to come back, and the reason I think it's going to come back, his daughter's on the show. His daughter's a pretty good actress. But he's in a stage now where he wants to spend time with his kids. He wants to help his kids' careers, just like a good dad would. So my feeling is what they're going to do is do something like 911 Lone Star, which ironically I did a guest spot recently on that, and they're talking about bringing me back as a regular. But after listening to this show, I don't know if I'll get the offer completed because you say the wrong thing politically and you don't toe the liberal line there, man, you're done. So I don't even know why I was allowed or given, won the audition part for Tulsa King, to be honest with you. Although Taylor Sheridan, the man behind that, the creative force, along with Stallone, pretty conservative-leaning guy, so maybe that's how I squeezed through or made the cut. 911 Lone Star is a different thing, but Rob Lowe, great guy. His aunt, Pam, lives here in Fresno. In fact, she sold my family and I furniture, Kim, my wife, furniture for like 10 years, and we never knew it was Rob Lowe's aunt. So they were pretty excited, Rob and his brother Chad, when we struck up that conversation. But that's a long-winded way of saying I did that part, and they played an old Texas Ranger. Great part, love playing it. And they're just talking about bringing me back for that. But have not, that's the update. May have bored the tears out of most of you there. But I get a lot of emails and such of people asking on social media if I'm coming back to Tulsa King or Lone Star, and that's it right there. I don't know. I don't know. But one thing I do know about this business, you could be going along nothing, then you get a call saying, hey, it's on Tuesday. You need to be on a plane on Thursday because we're shooting on Friday. So anything could happen. We'll keep you posted. Okay. I ate up a lot more on that segment. But people ask, Jeremy. Jeremy's our producer here. He's producer extraordinaire. He is the best in the business. But I hadn't done that, and I had a few questions about it, so I thought I would just pass that on to you. When I know more, you will know more. Before we get into some of our topics today, because we're going to talk about this Ukrainian war, and we're going to talk about some of the things that I predicted. Not that I'm God's gift to anything, but I got a little bit of common sense. And I can't even take credit for that. I got to say, God, my mom, my dad, various coaches that mentored me, aunts, uncles, a little bit of common sense seeped into me in my brain and in my heart. And I say that because every single one of the things that common sense told me was going to happen when we first started this show over a year ago now has come to pass. Stuff that I was ridiculed for, people got livid with me for saying that. And again, I did it in the spirit of fulfilling my promise to you all. I never promised you I was going to be a slick talk show host or online influencer. I was just going to be me. And I made a promise to myself, excuse me, a long time ago. Don't let your, alligator mouth overload your hummingbird butt. Don't pretend that you know more than you do. Make sure you let people know what you're saying is either what you feel is fact that you've researched or your opinion. I don't like when people blend it. I need to have that line of demarcation in there. And I always promised you that. And there's one thing I feel really good about this show. I, at least consciously, have never broken that promise to you to lie to you. And I've always tried to. I know sometimes I probably slipped up and didn't give a disclaimer saying, now this is my opinion, solely my opinion. I have no hard evidence to go on, but this is what I feel is happening based on such and such and such and such. Okay. Now, I may have messed up and not prefaced what I was going to say with that little speech. Okay. I'll plead guilty to that. But I try to be mindful of that. And we're going to later talk about this litany of things from the Ukraine to COVID to Joe Biden's situation now, why he ran, the laptop of which many people were saying it's Russian disinformation, and why would Hunter Biden leave his laptop at a place like this with all of this incriminating evidence politically and personally on it? Nobody smart like that would do that. And I came right off the bat and said, absolutely understandable. And I'll go back and review what my reasoning was behind that. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to across the ocean to one, and a congratulations to one very brave individual who happens to be a woman. And she is my hero, one of my heroes. I've put her in the pantheon there. This lady, extraordinary courage, the willingness to put a higher purpose over her own freedom, her own life. And this is a lady, and I'm going to try to pronounce it properly, but I know I won't. But it's her name is Nargis. I won't even try to do the middle name, But her first and last name, Nargis Mohammadi. Now, Nargis Mohammadi, day before yesterday, won the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, I know that outfit's pretty rigged, pretty crooked. I mean, I think they gave it to Obama, and he'd never even been in office. He was in office for a month, and they gave it to him or something. I mean, it's been tainted over the years. I agree with you. But on this one, man, I think they got it right. Nargis is currently in an Iranian prison, serving 31 years, folks. 31 years in an Iranian prison for the awful crime of not wearing her headgear, her burqa properly. She had one, didn't wear it properly. They took her in. She has refused, apparently, to go down to be they've had some conditions, apparently, what's leaking out of there, where if she would go and get before the camera, we've all seen the old classic hostage interview where the individual apologizes for the awful, awful deed of maybe criticizing the government a little bit. We see it in China all the time. You know, when the actress, pointed out all of the sexual harassment and sexual misdeeds in the Chinese Communist Party, and she was made to get in front of the camera and say it was all made up. That they would do that. Well, apparently, Miss Mohammadi not going to do that. Not going to do it. So, wow. I mean, you think you're a patriot. You think, now, we obviously share different religions. She's obviously a practicer of the Muslim faith. But she's made a stand that you cannot have this type of oppression perpetrated against women in Iran, and was willing, looks for all the world, willing to pay the ultimate price. And I put her instantly, if she's able, and I wouldn't blame her if she folded and went out and did the hostage thing. Did the video. I'm not going, if that happened tomorrow, I wouldn't say take away her Nobel Peace Prize. In Iran, for a woman to do it this long is worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize. They do things a little bit different. Bongino talked about it on his show before. That's how people always falling out of windows, being pushed off the top of buildings. They seem to just slip on banana peelings up there all over the Middle East, inexplicably. It's a malady. But congratulations. To me, she is right up there with Nelson Mandela, willing to go to jail for his prison until he died for the cause of freedom in South Africa. And it looks like that they picked the wrong woman to harass. They, meaning the mullahs over there that want to keep that oppression going. So just a big shout out for, I know we're a small little station here in Clovis, California, but I know I speak for a lot of folks out there in our admiration and our thankfulness to this young lady making the stand against oppression and tyranny. All right, we take a quick break. We're going to be right back. And I'm a big football fan, and I happen to be very respectful of Pat Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid. Really respect them a lot. Although I played with the Green Bay Packers, I'm always going to be a Green Bay Packer fan. But something happened in the game recently, and, I didn't say I lost respect because things are said in the heat of battle, but I think they really crossed the line. We're going to talk about that. we on Facebook right now? Yeah. Oh, we're still flying. People can see me with these glasses on. Hey, folks, did you see where they had the annual Redneck Christmas Parade in Balkanville, Louisiana, my home state? And I missed it. I got to go next year. I didn't know they had the Redneck Christmas Parade. CNN was there. Obviously, they tried to make fun of poor white people. But, I shouldn't be so cynical towards CNN. We'll talk about that when we get back. Are we ready to go? Okay. Parade in Balkanville, Louisiana, home state, Louisiana. I was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, years ago. 71 years ago. I'm going to embrace my age. I'm going to make jokes about it. But CNN went down there and covered it. I watched it, and I don't want to be so cynical as to think that CNN would try to go into a place like that and show MAGA supporters that they're maybe ignorant or whatever. But, I saw it, and I said, okay, I'm going to watch this little, segment, and they're just going to make fun of them and all that stuff. But it didn't turn out with it. It looked like they started to. They started to interview the people while they come to the Redneck Parade. Very, very poor folks in Balkanville, Louisiana. I'm ashamed to say I don't know where Balkanville is. It's that small. I said I was born in Shreveport. But it was obviously people hit hard by the economy. And a CNN reporter there was getting, interviewing the people. And they were saying why they were going to vote for Trump. And surprisingly, the interviewer, and by the way, this is the edited version that made it onto CNN. I was so surprised in what looks to be a continuing, believe me, I don't trust CNN. I don't trust any of the networks, really, to give me the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So help them God. But we know the history of CNN. They went off the rails after the first war in Iraq and really haven't come back since. But I'm seeing a slow creep back to at least an attempt to do a little bit of mea culpa, how they've treated middle class and lower class people, including white people. If you listen to CNN before then, you would not think there was one poor white person in America. That if you were white, you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. And all your kids had to make difficult choices, like whether to go to Harvard or Yale. That's how they wanted to paint white people. There's a lot of poor white people, poor black people, poor Hispanic people. I know because I picked cotton out in the fields with them here in the central San Joaquin Valley. And it was equal opportunity cotton. Everybody was poor. And we didn't have somebody taking the old cotton sack up on the ladder and dumping the cotton into the trailer because you were white or whatever. No, you went up there and climbed that ladder and dumped your cotton and went back out in the fields again. So, but anyway, I was really surprised and fascinating how, how do I phrase this? Obviously, none of them had been to college that they interviewed. Many of them probably didn't finish high school. But the common sense and smarts and elegance and manners that these people displayed, and they didn't do just a one and out. They interviewed about 4 or 5 of these folks at the Redneck Parade, and you got a glimpse, not one talk about racism, in fact, flat against it, and allowed to say why they were voting for Trump. And making cases and stuff that made a lot of sense. That anybody would listen and say, well, I don't really agree with them, but I get what that person's saying. And why I'm just sitting here in amazement after watching this last night is I know how this stuff works. I've had my scenes, like the Tulsa King scene I did with Stallone. I mean, they edited Dickens out of that. And you can edit any interview and make it seem like somebody said something that they really didn't say. They take it out of context. They can make somebody look smart or stupid by editing. And they obviously didn't edit out the stuff. And anyway, I was just kind of really amazed. And the last thing I'm going to say for today, because see, I get called some communist pinko because I say someone who used to be so off track, or an organization that should be so off track on doing what they should be doing, in this case the media like CNN, taking the truth to us and quit masquerading opinion artists as reporters, drawing a clear line of demarcation. Don Lemon, Cuomo, they were talking heads. They were opinion. They were they were like Hannity and Tucker Carlson. They weren't reporters, okay? But they on CNN, on Fox, they drew that line of demarcation on that. On CNN, they wouldn't, And they've got two young ladies now named Abby Phillip, I think she's on at 9, and Laura Coates, back-to-back, two African-American ladies, and they are, don't get me wrong, they are not conservative. And I disagree with, their views are obvious views, because you can see it through on how they question folks, who they're sympathetic to or not. But I do see a level of even-handedness with guests and more tough questions asked not just of conservatives, but of the Democrats. And it's really kind of interesting to see these Democratic far-left people that come on there. When there's a question asked, they try to skirt it or avoid it or give a softball answer that usually would have made this old CNN of the Cuomo, Don Lemon days go, okay, and then just move on to the next question and not push them to answer it. These two gals don't do that. They'll say, well, that's fine, I hear you, but you still didn't answer the question. Why do you think Trump has such a big lead? You've told me this, this, and this. Do you think all Trump supporters are brainwashed MAGA people? I mean, that was never asked by CNN, because the ones that want to run for president or want to try to they don't want to really answer that question straightforward. And so anyway, it's just something to watch. I'm like Larry Elder. I said, I watch all this stuff so you don't have to. But those people think I just absorb Fox and MSNBC, Newsmax. I don't even go over to Newsmax. Well, I guess that's the new competition for Fox. I'll dab into MSNBC just to see if they've, if they've grown one brain cell at least, or maybe just an iota. I'm asking, love America. I'm not even asking MSNBC to do that. I'm just asking, maybe not completely 100% hate every single aspect of this country. Just a speck. Find just something that you may like about America. Traditional America, life, liberty, pursuit of having the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, all that stuff. Just a little bit. Sorry to say, haven't found it yet on MSNBC. I mean, I don't. The people who watch it, they get more ratings than CNN. But okay, let's move on here. Boy, this show's just flying by. Okay, Pat, do you have that graphic I sent you, Jeremy? Okay. I'm a big sports fan, obviously. If you've listened to the show, used to play football with the Green Bay Packers, big football fan, Packer fan. But I really admire what's going on in Kansas City. I always admired Andy Reid, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, just those other teams that did really, really well. But I'm starting to see the snowflake factor drift into pro football. The last bastion of toughness, right up there with hockey. Basketball, it went snowflake a long time ago. Soccer, they defined snowflake, okay? Well, they do rough stuff up there. There's a whole host. It's a whole show, I can tell you, that I think soccer is a snowflake sport. Now, I'll watch the World Cup. I'll get excited like everybody else. And it is what it is in my book. This is my opinion. Remember, here's a qualifier. No real empirical evidence other than what my eyes see and my ears hear. But Kansas City, it's there because I never would have thought these two folks, Mahomes and Reid, would react the way they did to this situation. As far as I know, they have not retracted. Okay, what is the situation now, and what's the issue you're talking about? Is this the last game against the Buffalo Bills? I think it was they were down by 3 points or what have you. Kansas City was down. The last drive, only less than a minute to go, I believe. And they did this kind of Hail Mary thing where they were, again, behind 20-17, I believe. And Mahomes threw the ball to Travis Kelce. Kelce's running across the middle. They have no timeouts. And all of a sudden, Kelce stops and throws the ball backwards across to his other teammate on the other side of the field. And you can throw a football if you throw it backwards. It's considered a lateral. Nothing wrong with that. Just threw it, just right in the numbers. I don't know how he did. It was a great play. Hit the guy. He goes in for what looks to be the winning touchdown. Everybody goes nuts, crazy. But there's the dreaded flag on the play. Well, they go back, and what we find out is that a Kansas City Chief wide receiver had lined up offsides. The referee called it, play nullified. They ran a couple of more plays. Game over. And Mahomes, who I've never seen him this upset, on the sideline, he is going ballistic. He's apoplectic on this referee. Why'd you call it? Why'd you call this? Andy Reid. So you got the young guy. You can understand a little bit, although to me, I've never heard Mahomes really go after a referee like this. Andy Reid goes off on the referee. Now, mind you, the one who didn't go off on the official was the guy who made the play, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. He didn't go off. Okay? He just kind of took it in stride. Okay, it's one of those things. But their position was, and here's where the snowflakiness starts to come in. The "are you kidding me" aspect comes in. The "where it left me shaking my head" comes in. Pat Mahomes and Reid criticized the referee. It wasn't that they disagreed with the wide receiver being offsides. Their contention was that the referee should have reminded him and gave him a warning. The referee should have said, "Hey, young man, you're offsides. Move back." Now, they'll tell you referees do that from time to time, but the referee gave no warning. That's very misleading. Mahomes knows it's misleading when he says that. Andy Reid's almost my age. He knows better. Saying, well, usually they warn you. No, they don't. When you're that offsides. Go on and Google this. We'll have it tomorrow. I said it to Jeremy too late. You'll see the lineup. A referee will warn. I know because I played this sport. I've heard the referees do the so-called warning that Mahomes and Reid said was not given the receiver and cost them the ball game. In a game, if a receiver's kind of up in the gray area, inching a little bit closer, but still not offsides, they'll say, "Hey, young man, watch it. 87, you're getting a little close." But they're not over, but they're creeping a little closer each time. They'll give a warning. Better watch that. Okay, like they do on late hits on a quarterback. Hey, that was in there, but hey, half a second more, I'm going to flag you. Or a quarterback. Hey, I'm not going to call intentional grounding on that. It was pretty close there. I could have called it, so you might want to watch that. But not when you blatantly. It would have been like Derek Carr just got put out. Another concussion 2 weeks ago. The guy hit him, helmet underneath the chin, drove him into the ground. 2 fouls, 2 major fouls. You don't warn him. Say, hey, because it's blatant. You got to throw the flag. When you see this guy lining off sides, he's almost over into the other teams, to the Buffalo Bills defensive line. He's not a little offsides. It's like he's on the other team. The referee who called the flag, he couldn't even see the other side of the line of scrimmage, the other people lined up. As a referee, you're supposed to be able to see the whole line This guy was so far across the line, offsides, he couldn't even see that. And you can't warn. What if it would have been a defensive player? I'd ask Mahomes and Reed. What if you had the Buffalo Bill defensive end lining up that much offsides and say Travis Kelce's throw back was intercepted instead of completed, and you saw him offside, would you have wanted the referee to throw the flag on that Buffalo Bill guy that was offside? Well, we know that's a rhetorical question. Absolutely you would. So you have these people that, and here's the other. I dig a little deeper. I know sometimes I get paralysis analysis on this thing. You know, if that would have happened back in my day with my coaches, with folks, and even today's coaches like Belichick, certainly Bill Parcells, certainly Vince Lombardi, Bear Bryant, all those old schools who really believe that in accountability, if you would have tried to yell, one of the players or even one of his assistant coaches would have tried to yell at the referee for that, they would have, Hurricane Bear Bryant would have come down on them, as well as the other coaches. The one that would have got criticized and got punished to make sure that it never happens again would be the player who lined off sides. They're going to him going, oh, it's okay, Joe. I forget his name. The referee blew it. The referee should have warned you. That's what's wrong with society. There's a microcosm there. I really do believe that. It's not that these kids, they learn to be coddled. They don't want to accept responsibility. It's like, young man, get your head in the game. They're taught that. Make sure you're not offsides. Every receiver is taught that. Ad nauseum. That's the first thing you do when you come out on the line of scrimmage, is to make sure. And then if you're not, you look to the referee and say, am I offsides? And the referee will tell you, if you ask even that bad offside, they'll tell you. He didn't check with the referee. He did everything wrong. Yet he's there in the locker room and people going around patting him on the back saying, oh, don't worry about it. It was a bad referee. How's that guy? No, that kind of mistake should be allowed to have its way with that individual. Why? Because our greatest lessons happen out of pain. We've all made stupid mistakes. And I'm glad I didn't have a bunch of people telling me, well, it wasn't that stupid. It was somebody else's fault that you started taking that drug, Alan. It's your fault that you talked back to that person on the set, Alan. It's not your fault that you know this happened, that happened. And what makes it's even more sad is Andy Reid, and I'm guarantee you, a lot of Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, there's coaches out there today. There's no way they would do what Andy Reid and quarterbacks like Mahomes would be doing that. I guarantee you, Tomlin would have said it was a tough loss, and our wide receiver is the one held accountable, and our coach is who's coaching him not to do that. And that's the way. And I'm thinking, well, after they've had a night to think on it, you know, they'll at least, you know, say, hey, we thought about it, we were wrong. No, they're standing by it. And now you know what's happening, and I got to tip my hat to the NFL. The NFL may fine them for criticizing the referee. It was just in the news feed here. Way to go, NFL, because it's so obvious. There's no gray area on this. The man was way offsides, and you're asking, think about it. Deep inside, you're asking the referee not to call it. Why? Because you're the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what they're saying. We're special. I'm Pat Mahomes. I'm Andy Reid. We're the Chiefs. And you should have made it an exception for us. We did wrong. We didn't play by the rules. And the other team won. So you should take that victory from them. And out of the spirit of equity, give it back or let us play the play over again. Well, Alan, that's not what they're saying. Well, yeah, it is. I might seem like a small thing, but that's what they said about CRT when they were teaching this. Again, I know I'm the old fogey. I can't change that, but you know what? I'm going to flat out say it. There were some things in the past when I grew up that were really bad. Equal rights for minority. There was some tough stuff. Vietnam. There was some tough. I got spankings. All of us did that in school with paddles. I mean, broke veins. Now, I think there's something in between that. So there were some bad things back in those days. But there were some good things. Progress doesn't mean you just change something because you get bored with it. I mean, you don't say, oh, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness is pretty good. But, we've had that a long time. I'm kind of bored with it. Let's try a little bit of dictatorship. Let's try a little bit of oppression. Let's try having the big government tell us everything we need to do. Let's try, when they say, stick an experimental vaccine in your arm, let's just do it. Let's don't forget about equal rights. Why? Because it's boring. It's boring. Oh, personal accountability to be responsible for what you say and do. Oh, that's boring. Why don't we just try to shirk all sorts of responsibility as a society? Let's try blaming everybody else. I got another idea. Why don't we blame them when they're born? Hey, what's this Martin Luther King stuff? We don't judge a person by the color of their skin, but by the content of the character. Boring. Boring. Let's try judging them when they're born, whether they're going to be an oppressor or oppressed. Well, let's try in sports. Sports, the last mention of accountability. Let's just take our good with the bad. When we screw up, let's say we screwed up. When we blew it, let's say we blew it. No. Let's blame the referee when our guy is way off sides. Let's blame the referee for not helping us win the game. Oh, forget all this, a neutral referee. Referees shouldn't be neutral. Hey, they were the Kansas City Chiefs. Don't you see all of our players on commercials? Hey, Jake from State Farm. You don't see anybody. You don't see the Bills on there for the Carolina Panthers. You see Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid doing the commercial. Referee, don't you know what you're putting at stake here? Don't give that to the Bills. We're the Chiefs. Don't call that offside. Well, Alan, that's not what they're doing. I hate to say it. Again, if there was the mea culpa would happen overnight, and I blame Andy Reid more than any of them. I really do. The guy's 70 years old. He's had a night to sleep on it. Get up and say, like Travis Kelce gets, I kiddingly said, Taylor Swift's boyfriend. He's more of a grown-up. He didn't say anything about it. You're offsides. They call the play back. We lost the game. So, I have taken up this whole show. I've got a whole list. Look at these notes. Look at these notes, Jeremy. I'd gotten I didn't get past my intro. But you know what that means? We got a big Taco Tuesday coming up tomorrow. But anyway, that's why I'm so adamantly against CRT. That's why I hold these people accountable. And you know what? If I do something as snowflake-ish as that, or I say something like that, like these Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes are doing, because I like the Chief. Like I said, I like to watch them play. And they're good role models, good people. But everybody's watching you. People shouldn't take their political cues or behavioral clues from artists, whether it be Taylor Swift, Elvis, or whatever, or Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. But they do. Young people are looking at you. They're emulating you. I emulated everything Mickey Mantle did. I didn't know he was drinking every night back then, or I probably would have went out and snuck some whiskey every night. You do. You have a responsibility. So that's what I'm hoping, that they'll come, they'll understand that. Say, hey, to the referee, apologize to the freaking referee, and make things better. Folks, thank you for tuning in here on Manic Monday. God bless you. God bless America. And, just do your best and let God do the rest. That's all God expects of you, and that's all you should expect of yourself. You do that, everything's going to be fine. Bye-bye now.
Till then, who cares about the